What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Switch Talk, the perfectly pocket-sized podcast where we try to discuss the latest and greatest games for this console, this hybrid console that has stolen our hearts and minds, the Nintendo Switch. We thank you so much for listening. Remember, we want to fit inside of your podcast schedule, so we try to keep our conversations down to 30 minutes or less, and it's going to be really hard today because today we are discussing the Game of the Year contender, Super Mario Odyssey. Long story short, this game's amazing. Everybody who owns a Switch, I'm sure, is purchased at the time of our recording. According to Polygon, Nintendo says they've sold 2 million copies already. That's as of, it says here, I think October 31st. So amazing game, obviously, from a lot of people's different perspectives. So we're going to have a discussion on that. But first, I want to thank the winner of our Super Mario Odyssey giveaway, Bad Bit Games. Thank you so much for listening and supporting us, all of you out there, and we hope to do more giveaways in the future. We appreciate everyone who gives us the time and tries us out. Super Mario Odyssey, guys. As you can see, I'm sporting my Super Mario hat here. My wife and I
you look very handsome.
My wife and I were Mario and Luigi for Halloween, so we're super pumped. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on the latest, greatest Switch game. Who'd like to kick it off? Anybody?
Oh, I keep letting Dave kick it off, so I guess I'll take it this time.
Go ahead.
So, yes, this is a great game, obviously.
Wait, stop. I'm so sorry, guys. For a little disclaimer here, we're going to do a minor spoilers discussion. I wanted to say that at the outset so you can freely listen to the podcast and not worry about anything major spoiled for yourself. I personally have played a little over 10 hours, I believe, and then my co-hosts here have beat the game, but we're not going to discuss too much late game content or the big surprises that other people are spoiling for people. So listen freely, everybody. Minor spoilers ahead only. Take it away, Clay.
All right, yeah. So as you mentioned, I did play through what I would call like the first half of the game, if even that, which is I guess the main storyline. But obviously, as most people are saying, it does open up towards, after that, I guess you call it like the after game, the end game, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's really where the game shines. I think for the first few parts, getting through kind of the main areas and the main levels was really enjoyable. But I think after, you get through all of that and you kind of go back through it is where it really kind of shines and is where I really feel like it's starting to pick up the pace and I'm really starting to enjoy it even a lot more. But as of right now, I don't know how many hours exactly I've put in. My freaking Switch won't tell me how many hours I've played so far, but it's probably a good amount. I didn't have a ton of time over the first weekend to play it, but I just keep getting in as much time as I can here and there, and I've really been enjoying it. I know this is a little early to talk about, but I don't know if it's necessarily Breath of the Wild good, but it is really good nonetheless. Yep, I said it. So.
Wow, so interesting. And that is something, that we should definitely talk about. It's just the nature of things right now is Nintendo being such a surprise hit with the Switch and then the games coming out that are so excellent and, getting 10s or perfect scores from a lot of review sites. That conversation's going to happen. I've experienced less of the game from you, and I'm kind of on the other side of that argument, but let me get some initial thoughts, David. Come on, tell me what you think. We haven't really had a lot of chance to talk off air about how much you enjoyed it. So, what do you think?
I am completely floored by the game. I think I know I haven't 100%ed it, but I feel like I've played it enough at this point to say that this is my favorite Mario game I've ever played.
Ooh,
nice.
So this, wow. I do. I know there's going to always be the debate if this is better than Breath of the Wild, but I think it is better. We'll have to see, because I think there's more. I think there's a lot more replay value to it, and there are a few things I could nitpick about Breath of the Wild, and I had to literally just sit and think about flaws in this game and try to find them so I'd have something to criticize later on. But I don't know if I'm going to get into that yet or not. But yeah, it's such a joy to play, and it finally feels like the Mario game that I wanted. back when the GameCube was coming out. This was the type of game I remember wanting. I was like, I want that Mario 64 sequel. Just everything cranked up, more stars, more areas, more creativity, and this is like exactly what I've been wanting for like the last, what has it been, like 26 years since Mario 64? So I don't know, it feels like this fulfillment of desire I had a long time coming, but it's not like it was just, it wasn't what I expected either. Like, this is clearly the game I wanted, but almost I didn't know I wanted, because it goes in so many directions that I wasn't expecting it to go, with some of the places you go and the things you do and meet along the way. And it's just in that perfect Nintendo way of sort of being revolutionary, but not in sort of the gimmicky way we've kind of gotten conditioned to expect from Nintendo. It actually feels like both revolution and evolution from Super Mario 64. And I think that's what makes it truly fantastic.
I would agree with you in that I haven't experienced the game through. I got stuck on the third world, the third location you visit, which is really the first big sprawling area that you are in. A lot of footage has already been shown by Nintendo about it, but it has this like desert theme. It's actually kind of like this. To me, it just looks like a Mexican like paradise or whatever. So my people are like scattered everywhere, and I got stuck there and got this completionist bent in it, because one of the first things that I love about the game is that the collectibles and every coin that you receive, as well as every local currency specific to every area you visit that has to be spent in that world, and every moon is just so addicting. As soon as I started the game, each one of those elements like hooked me in a different way, and the unlockables, which quite famously are a lot of costumes for Mario, are just so adorable, and it really just grabbed me right off the bat. And also something along the lines of what you were saying, David, I told my brother, like, hey, this new Mario game came out. He's like, whatever. I'm like, it's Super Mario 64 Part 2. Like, it's like amazing. That's the best way I could describe it. It's obviously 3D, but it's also has those like bite-sized, some bite-sized, some larger worlds, and changes it up on you so much. And then along with the stars in Mario 64, again, you have the much improved moon system that a lot of people have discussed. So collectibles right off the bat got me, the locales charming, and again, I couldn't stop playing this one world. You guys had to tell me to kind of press on through and get to some other worlds, which I eventually did just recently, but amazingly addictive is what I have to say about it. The way that they set it up with the levels and collectibles, absolutely. Clay, you mentioned that it gets better later, and I've mentioned on the show before that I love value in games, and from what I played already, just knowing that, it blows me away. That's what floors me. It's like, wow, you mean it gets better? And it has never stopped delivering. A lot of people have said something along the lines of it's been joy-inducing, and that's what it is. Every minute that I'm playing, I'm finding something new and having an amazing time. So the fact that it gets better is like, I'm so excited for this game. Clay, could you pick out some of the major things that would have you, say that this game is like, what makes it amazing? What's the special sauce that you see going on here?
There's a couple things. I think a big one you already slightly hit on, and that is the costumes, the outfits or whatever. Even though they're really more just cosmetic, something about that just I really love, and I want to collect them all, and I want to have them all or whatever. And so that's a big part. I think the other thing is just the controls and the moves that Mario has. Starting out, it doesn't necessarily take you a while to get going, but it does take a little bit of time to kind of master these things. We have the mechanic where you can throw your hat and bounce off it, and that opens up some other doors where you can kind of do this dive thing. And so there's a lot more moving around, jumping around, doing these crazy moves that you couldn't do in older 3D Mario games. And so mastering that, and then you're just walking around feeling like super BA, because you're like, wow, I can fall off an edge, and I can like fix it before I fall to my death. I can, get back up or whatever. And so I think that's a big part of it, is that you just feel really good moving around, and you just feel really cool. You can move at a really good speed. And then I think the other thing is the main mechanic, which is where I don't know what the proper term is, but possess or,
I think
control.
It's capture.
Capture.
Sure, but...
You capture other characters. And this was something that I was very concerned about. Well, not very, but I was concerned about it. I thought maybe this would slow down the flow of the game, and eventually we would all just be like, I don't even capture people anymore. I just play as Mario. But really, it has been a really good experience, and a lot of the characters, even ones I thought that were going to be really lame or not enjoyable, ended up being really fun. And so I thought that part was super strong too, which I was not expecting.
You hit on a really good point. When they said that you could capture, all the enemies that you can see, or most of the enemies, I was concerned about that as well. And I'm so glad that you pointed out that it doesn't detract from the game at all. If anything, it was done pretty spot on. I didn't have any issues, and I enjoyed being every different, I guess you want to call it, enemy or character. You can become a lot of different things that you didn't really even realize that you could be, like inanimate objects and things like that. And a lot of that is, gets into some spoiler territory, but long story short, I enjoyed it every single time. And, I didn't even realize that till you said it, Clay. I'm glad that you brought that up. And,
yeah, I had kind of the same concern when I first heard about the hat thing. I was like, because every other 3D platform I've played, like when you do the transformation or the additional character, it's never as fun as being, the initial character.
Yeah.
And this time it almost felt so smooth and natural that it was never jarring becoming something. Like I never felt like all of a sudden I got these weird controls and nothing is as fun anymore. Every time, as I said, every time you go into something, it just feels really fun. And it's really weird, because that was probably my only concern going into this game is, because obviously this looks like a Mario 64 successor, so I was very happy, but that was the one thing, is like, what if these transformations aren't fun and the game is really, really dependent on it? And it's not the case at all. Everyone is fun. I wouldn't even say that that it's even constant. There's always different ways to do it. And that's another thing that one thing I've noticed with past Mario games is, we talk about the moveset, I always felt like I was losing something almost with each Mario game that came out. Like the control, his moveset never felt as robust as it was in 64. And this is the first game I've played since then where it feels like Mario can do even more. I have even more control. I can do even more ridiculous moves to do things I'm not supposed to. And I think it's going to create a really cool YouTube scene of people doing ridiculous things in this game and doing things ways they're not supposed to. And I think that's going to be really entertaining down the line when people start speed running and doing things the wrong way to, create their own personal accomplishments within the game. I think that's pretty cool.
Even though the controls are so robust, they're also Mario simple. I think that's been a staple of the series, is that if, Mario's so recognizable for a reason. We kind of came up with them, and the mechanics have evolved with us from, fewer buttons to more buttons, and then the moveset that we have now is, I can say, and is still accessible. The thing that's excited me the most by far about the game is the accessibility. My wife showed her the game, and she loved Mario 64, but like we said, it's been, over a decade, has it been 2 decades since we played it, and she picked up and played right away. And not only that, but she was able to find secrets and progress without any assistance from me. It was just intuitive to her, and I think that that's an incredibly big selling point for the game, and it's also going to assist the console as a whole, because when we launched, we saw, I guess, snipper clippers could be one of the best things that kind of said, okay, here, play with your family, anyone can do this, people get it. But this game in particular just takes it to a brand new level. It's I know for a fact that I can hand this to anyone now, and they're going to be like, oh, that's Mario, I know him, I remember Mario 64, and I'm going to keep going with it. So accessibility is key for me. And kind of getting back a little bit to the Game of the Year discussion, I don't think I can hand Breath of the Wild to someone and have them, it's too sprawling. It's too complex. The physics system that is incredibly brilliant, where they set the rules and let you figure out how things interact with gravity and motion and different tools, is beautiful, but it's a little bit too much. But I can hand this to someone and they understand everything that Mario can do, and especially the cap, which is a main thing. So I was super excited about that, the accessibility part, and that's pretty much why I believe that this game is the best experience that I've had on the system so far. It's just blowing me away. Clay, what else can you say about the game? Anything? Because you're the insightful one here. You're really the crux.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but yeah, there's one thing I wanted to bring up. I guess one thing I do like about this game, and I guess it kind of goes with the accessibility of it, is the fact that there's so much to do, but the game gives you all the tools you need to be able to figure out where everything is, what you have to do to get everything. And that's kind of where I'm at in the game. Is I've played through the majority of it, and so now I'm going back through and trying to find everything. And if you don't know where something is, or you're just like, I've scoured everywhere, they give you different means to find those things, whether it's you pay Toad, I think it's 50 coins or 100 coins, something like that, and he'll kind of pinpoint on the map, hey, there's something over here that you missed, and you can go over there. Or if you have Amiibo, you can scan those instead of spending 50 coins, and he'll put it on your map. And then there's Uncle Amiibo, who you can scan up to 3 Amiibo every 5 minutes, and he will send those Amiibo out, and they will come back with information on where to find things. So it's just like, I don't need to go on the internet for this, and I don't want to, but if I'm getting like tips, it kind of reminds me of like Donkey Kong Country, where you go to these, other characters and they kind of give you, direction. And I don't feel like I'm cheating the game, because the game kind of provides you with it. And so, which is even, it's good for those hard to find ones, and maybe even better for kids who don't know where everything is. Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was a really neat thing. That's kind of where I'm at right now. But I did notice, and Tony, I've been getting on you about this, is you can't really just go level 1, find everything. All right, level 2, find everything. You really have to kind of, I call it fanning, but you got to kind of go back and forth, up and down. Even now, after I've beaten the game, I was just working on level 2 today, and I realized I can't get everything by just being on level 2. Hopefully that's not a spoiler. You got to keep playing around. The worlds do kind of intermix and work together, which I don't know if I'm necessarily a huge fan of that, but that's just the way it is. And so it encourages you not to spend too much time in just one area. And so I felt like I sped through Breath of the Wild just to keep up with people's conversations and where they were at. And so I told myself I'm not going to speed through Mario, and I don't feel like I did, even though it only took me like 3 days to see the main quest line through or whatever. But it'll still be a long time before I feel like I'm done with this game, so I'm happy with that. I don't know if you guys had anything to add to that. I had a question for you otherwise, if not.
I wanted to do a quick comparison. I have 80 moons. That's kind of one of the rough ways that you can compare with other people, kind of where they are. I have 80 moons and about, I think, 5 worlds I've visited, or 5 locales. How many moons did you guys say that you ended up with now?
Go ahead, Dave.
I believe I just got a few more before I played, so I think I'm probably almost to 360, but not quite. Maybe like 357 or something like that.
And you're in a race, so Clay, weren't you almost head-to-head? What do you got?
Yeah, I'm at 374 right now.
Oh,
so.
Okay, cool. And what was your question, Clay?
All right, my question. And do you guys think that these levels should be bigger? I know some of them are larger than others, but I try to think back to other, current day 3D platformers. Mainly Yooka-Laylee comes to mind. And for whatever reason, I feel like that game, and maybe some other games, just has... and maybe Breath of the Wild spoiled me too, but some of these levels, maybe not all of them, just feel really small and constricted, and I feel like there's a lot of collectibles in a very small area. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but it was just an observation. I don't know what you guys think.
I think it works well from this game, and that's part of the reason it's such a joy for anyone to play, is that it's such a constant sort of reward for action. And the fact that it's so dense, I think almost makes it more fun. And I feel like I've done the sprawling world thing so much that I don't need it this time. And some of them are big, like the Sand Kingdom, for example, is a very big
definitely.
world. I do have a problem with a couple of the worlds that I just don't think are that well designed, but I don't mind that they're small. But particularly, it's too late in the game to mention a couple of them, but I felt some of them felt more, instead of sandboxy, that almost felt like I was just linearly progressing to one section to the other with a little choice. There's a couple of them like that was a little disappointing, but I think just being small in and of itself isn't actually a bad thing. At least for this game, because I think it worked very well. And I know, just to add to what Tony was saying, my wife also really loved this game, and she doesn't have a history of Super Mario 64 like I do. And she still instantly took to it. And just seeing her react to like all these things was like really amazing, because she's not really a gamer. She plays games every now and again. She plays certain games and almost plays those certain games exclusively. And I was really surprised how much she took to it. I remember she was just kept, when she first captured the frog, she was like, oh my god, this is the best game I've ever played. And she repeated that to me several times, that this was like the best game she'd ever played. And,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think it really speaks to the game design, is that everything constantly entertains you, rewards you. There's not these periods of not having fun. There's no trekking from one fun place to have a bunch of boring stuff to get to one fun place. It's like every moment sort of captures the joy of gameplay, and I think that's really where it shines.
Absolutely. I'm totally on what David was saying. I'm on board with that, because tripping over some secrets kind of is just going to happen because things are so dense. And I think there would be a danger in having each level be more sprawling or spread out, because we've seen games like an Assassin's Creed, or basically a lot of like Ubisoft open world or any open world game, fall into that pit where it's big and large for just large sake, and then you end up going into this repetition, and there's not really anything new there. It's just for the sake of everything appearing to be this open world and the illusion of choice. So I think that there's a time and a place for different styles, and I'm not upset at the game right now from what I've experienced by kind of laying out that more linear approach. I would trade that off, even though I do like my open world, I would trade that off for what I'm experiencing now, which is a family-friendly game that doesn't come along as often, at least in my experience. This is going to get people gaming that haven't gamed in a long time. This is going to bring families together, like only a Mario game can. It's just too polished and too interesting moment to moment. I, at my time with it, have never been bored. And unless that happens at some point, I'm not going to fault the game for being too small or constricted in any way. I've loved every little subtle animation and enemy, and around every corner is something new and fresh to me anyway. So yeah, I would totally be on board with this instead of open sprawling.
Fair enough. Another question I had, do you guys think this game is too easy?
Absolutely not. I think that there's a way to progress through the main campaign, and scenes, from finding only what's required and going only where's required. That isn't going to take too much, but there is a level underneath, and the hidden secrets and challenges that occur it's been very challenging to me when I've gone to that level, and you can by choice. And I really love games that are going to challenge you and push you, so that it was perfect for me. I would find those hidden areas where they wanted me to get something that seemed just out of reach, and you have to have perfect timing or use the mechanics in a certain way. And I've experienced that many times, enough to know that I think they're going to keep that there throughout. And usually in a new game plus situation, or in a situation where you kind of have, wow, there's way more to this game, that's kind of where they go. They already know, okay, you got through, you're hungry for more, you've obviously probably beaten it faster, like it's gonna get more difficult later. And unless I'm wrong, I would expect that that's the case, and I love that. Even the stuff that's normal, I'm not like super breezing through. I'm enjoying my time throughout. What do you think, David?
Yeah, I think the difficulty level is kind of perfect. It is. People are going to say it's the easiest Mario game. In some way it is, but I think what they're putting the difficulty in is a little bit different this time. Like, they want you to solve puzzles, they want you to explore, and almost there's a little bit more critical thinking and trying to figure out how to get to something than, in some previous Mario games. I think a lot of the difficulty goes there, and there's still those difficult platforming challenges. They're just a little bit more optional this time around. It's not like we're in Super Mario Sunshine, where I felt like they would put in these really difficult platforming sections and really force it to even complete the game. Whereas if you really want to avoid that stuff, now you can there's enough moons to go around that you could get to credits probably without that much difficulty. But for people, I don't think most people are going to do that, because I think the game is so engaging that you're going to want to seek out those challenges even after you've hit end credits, because I think if we ever talked, there's a lot to do after you hit those credits, and it feels more just like a milestone on your journey in some ways, completing the story, and you want to keep going, and you want to do those harder challenges. And from what I've heard, I haven't got all the way to all the secret areas, but I've heard that the final one is quite difficult. And there's definitely challenges there for people who want the sheer, just timing, jumps, all that stuff. And for everyone else who might just kind of want a more easy experience and use their head a little bit more to determine how to get things, that type of challenge is there too. For me, it feels like it's the perfect balance, so it never gets super frustrating that I stop having a good time, but it's not like a walk in the park either.
These are really good questions, Clay. Good job.
No problem.
I was totally surprised, because in Mario games I would collect coins and all my whole life, and you would just get maybe 100 coins got you a life or something like that, and the more rare collect red coins or purple coins depending on the situation, and you get some type of reward. But now I feel like the moment-to-moment collecting of even the most basic thing, the regular golden coins, meant something, and had me striving more and more to keep playing. And I think that's an achievement in this day and age, really, to have that accessibility. The game's beautiful, the sound is obviously there. In the age of like DLC, I look at games coming out recently on the Switch, and I want more. And Nintendo, I don't think, has gone and monetized in that way too much yet. They had obviously the Breath of the Wild DLC, but I think that Nintendo is delivering quality experiences of value that could be shared with the family, and that this game is going to be a milestone. We're going to look back on it like we do with Mario 64 and saying like, wow, we were treated to an amazing experience, and it kind of paved the way for the system at the time. So I think that this is going to open a lot of doors this holiday. You're going to see it, and going into 2018, I'm just super excited for the system, seeing more and more games break barriers like that. And Nintendo does it. They've proven that they've done it better than anyone else, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think this alongside Breath of the Wild is, they're unstoppable together, and they'd make quite the bundle. So I'm sure come the holidays, even if parents are maybe turned off for some reason to the word Zelda, I think the word Mario is going to make them lots of money and sell lots of consoles. So
get your kids Zelda and Mario and a Switch for Christmas. If they don't have it, you will change their life and give them the best childhood imaginable. Please do this.
Oh, yes. Man, kids these days, man. It's like, oh, yeah, my first game was Breath of the Wild, and then I played Mario after that. Oh, they're so spoiled.
Oh, right.
I want to thank you, everybody, for listening to Switch Talk. We're going to be bringing you more coverage and more giveaways, so please stay tuned. Enjoy Super Mario Odyssey, everybody. We know that we have, and we will continue to do so for quite some time. See ya!